Hey guys. All right. So my name is Anna Gogo, and I'm the creative director here at Adode Media. Let's go ahead and dive into how to really create engaging interview questions like a journalist. So let's quickly talk through my 4 things that I think you need to build engaging podcast questions and interview questions. And don't worry, I'm going to give you a few that you can kind of utilize for yourself. But one is thorough research. Researching your topic as well as researching your guest and researching your audience. These 3 things are very important. Now, the research of your audience should be something that's happening consistently. So you should consistently be understanding what your audience needs are, what their wants are. Because as much as I would love to talk about interior design and like hair, makeup, whatever the case may be, that's not what you guys come to me for. You guys come for podcast, branding, and all those things. So I have to stay on brand. That means understanding what your audience looks to you for. So that's the first phase of, determining and research for your podcast is researching your audience to know what they want from you. Then the next phase is researching that guest. Now, this is a crucial portion because it can make or break it. People don't want to feel like they are giving you your time, so that this way you're kind of wasting it. I've had situations where people are asking me questions and I'm like, that's not me. I'm not sure who you found that information on. And it's like, oh, so sorry. That's for a different interview. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know that information about you. So things that you can readily find on Google or on their website. And this is why it's important to have an intake process for your guest. And don't worry, I'll be doing a video on how to properly reach out to a guest and get that yes. Ooh, I like that name. Next up is open-ended questions. So give people an opportunity to have an introspective moment on your actual show. This is very important because I love questions that make me stop and think. Like it makes me stop and say, wait a minute. I haven't thought about that. I haven't had anybody ask me that. And if you have a video podcast, ooh, it is an amazing moment to capture on camera because you're literally getting to see them. And it really brings the audience into the conversation because they're like, ooh, wait a minute, this is about to be good. And that's the piece. You want to keep your audience feeling suspenseful, on their toes, feeling engaged. Like it shouldn't be something where if they're a fan of this person, they've heard of it 50,000 times. So open-ended questions and encouraging like a discussion and some dialogue. In post-production, I say if somebody's long-winded, it's okay to kind of cut that down a little bit so that way you get to the point a little bit quicker, or there's creative ways you can go about it. Next up is building that narrative. When I say building a narrative, I'm all about like, it's okay to take a portion of the episode and turn it into a pre-roll. And what that means is you're taking a portion, you're turning it into the capture, that 3 seconds to pull your audience into it. Next up is emotional intelligence and ethics. Now, this one here, I think in a day and age where things are a little salacious, it can be hard to realize that, hey, let's not go about it this way. And emotional intelligence is kind of paying attention to your guest, paying attention to how they're responding, how their mood might be changing. And I know with having a podcast, it can feel like there are so many moving parts. And you're like, Anna, this is another thing I have to pay attention to. Yes. Yes. And I think that the emotional intelligence and the ethics portion could probably be one of the biggest elements because you don't want a situation to where somebody does not share your podcast, they don't feel comfortable, or they tell other people that this is not a podcast that you should go to because they didn't feel safe. You didn't create a safe environment. You were antagonizing them. You were asking questions that you know were possibly sore topics because these are things that matter. And it's the essence of like reading the room in essence, like taking account of, okay, I asked this question, they're maybe stumbling through it. Give them an out. I cringe because I think I get secondhand embarrassment whenever I'm watching something and it feels like you have asked a question that might be a sensitive topic or unbeknownst to you, because that's possible too. It is something that is not sitting well with this particular guest. And instead of giving them an out of like, oh, well, I fully understand, like pivoting the conversation out of it, you allow them to sit in that because you think it's going to be good to capture, but in essence, they're uncomfortable. I say the worst thing that can happen in an interview is where your guest walks out, or they blatantly kind of cut you off and let you know, hey, this is not acceptable. Because I've seen that. Owning a studio, I see a little bit of everything. But it is very important to kind of have those conversations beforehand to understand, like, what are no-go zones. I'm a prime proponent of having conversations or an intake process of like, hey, I do allow cursing on my show, or I don't, or hey, it's okay for, are there things that you don't want to discuss, or I found this. And sometimes it also requires kind of doing your own self-assessment. If this were you, as much as this might be public information, if this were you, is this something that you'd want discussed? And I don't think we have a lot of those thoughts sometimes as podcasters because we're just trying to capture people. But is it in good conscience? So those are the 4 elements of how to develop good podcast questions. And now let me give you some examples. Now, these are some of my faves. I think I pulled just a few to kind of give you guys just an idea. And one of them is, can you share a bit about your journey? What led you to where you are today? A journey question, baby, I love that because it can go so many different places and you can utilize that to build off for your next questions. Now, it does make it a little harder to prepare for because you have absolutely no clue what they're about to say. They could tell you that their kid was kidnapped and now they came on a journey to America to find their child. And baby, now you are doing a documentary series podcast when it was supposed to be an interview. The next question I love is there a particular moment or decision that you consider a turning point in your career or life? Now, I think in the day and age of socials, it's very easy to see the glam. It's very easy to see the wins, and that's because we're not often sharing those hard portions. Because, let's be honest, the moment you do, then people are telling you, suck it up. She's always on the internet crying. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? And so that's when I think this type of question allows for you to understand that insight. And it also gives people leeway to sometimes release things that they may have been bottling up for God knows how long. I never forget when somebody asked me a question about a podcast conference that I have. And I think nobody had asked me how I was doing. Like, I had been putting together this conference. It was stressful. Nobody had asked me how I truly felt. And I remember I cried. Like, I broke down crying on a podcast. And I remember I was like, oh my God, please do not air this. And they're like, no, we'll edit it. And they edited it in a very tasteful way. But it also gave me an opportunity to stop and think to myself, like, oh, this is heavy for me. And so sometimes you can also utilize your podcast to be a safe space to kind of give people an opportunity to take a breath. And that's what that was for me. And I never forgot that show. The next question that I love is, can you share a recent project or endeavor you're particularly excited about? I absolutely love asking people what excites them and what they're excited about. If you have a camera or video-based podcast, or even on the audio, because you can hear when people are happy and genuinely smiling, the way people light up when they want to tell you what they're excited about, I love it. People they get so excited, and especially if it's not about their business. Like, if you ask me what I'm excited about right now that had nothing to do with my business, I would gleefully tell you. And I would tell you every painstaking detail about it, how I found it, how I got into it, why I like it. And now you have all this newfound information, but you've also gotten to capture an essence of their happiness, their joy, and people want to share that with the world. I think it's important to ask questions and include things in an interview that your guest will also want to share with their audience. If you've been podcasting for some time, you know that let me say this again, a lot of guests do not, as much as they should, they do not share the podcast episode. And that can feel very daunting. And don't worry, I think I'm going to do a video, because now that I've said it, I'm going to do a video on how you can get them to share. But if you're capturing me in my excitement, my joy, and I see this, like you sent me this promo reel, I want to share that because I want to share with the world that, oh, this is a new thing I'm doing. And so it's also looking at questions that help and guide your guests to want to share, to want to engage with the content. Lastly is looking forward. What's one challenge or goal you're currently pursuing? Or two-parter, what advice would you give to your younger self or future generations stepping into your same path of work or same line of life, in essence? And I love these ones because it lets you kind of see their challenges without them saying it. So if somebody is not really forthcoming about all of their shortcomings, because that's not always comfortable, hearing the advice that they have for future generations or advice for their younger selves kind of gives you insights into things that they may have struggled with or still be struggling with, because they're going to really emphasize on that. They're going to really hone in. And it gives you that kind of closeout to the conversation to help your audience understand how they got there and some of their shortcomings or hardships, should I say. I also like this because remember how I talked about my favorite shows have an introspective moment. And I know if you have like a society and culture podcast, these can be a little different because society and culture, you are talking about current events, you are talking about relationships and all of these other things. But when you are having a podcast that is more focused on interviews and giving your audience insights to a person, it's very important that your audience walks away with a nugget. And I say this in that you can have guests on your podcast that it could cost thousands of dollars for a consultation with them, but listening to a show, you may be able to glean more from them. So I hope you guys found this information helpful. The whole premise of this is you want to make sure that you're thoughtful, you're considerate, and you're taking the time to research. Before I do these content days, I spend about a week researching these different topics, understanding what do you guys want to hear from me from Google Trends, YouTube, Google as a whole, to understand like, okay, this is what people are asking questions about. So I know how to develop this. The other piece to that is I research what I know because at the same token, I don't want to come on here and teach you something that I'm like, I know nothing about this. Next up is remember to keep it light. I know some people have really heavy podcasts, but it's important to kind of infuse that dynamic in there. And last thing I'll leave you with is make sure you understand what your audience comes to you for week after week. If they come to you for encouragement and uplift and laughter, and you're like their way to start their week off on a Monday, baby, please do not start them off with something depressing and heavy. And that's just the truth of it. I'm an educational video series. And so with that in mind, you want me to stick to education. If I came on here and I had a guest, for example, who might have a better expertise in a different area than me, you would want them to keep my same level of energy. Like you would like, wait a minute, I tuned in because I like that energy. So that's the other piece. It doesn't matter what questions you ask. If you and your guests are not vibing together or aligned, then it's just not going to work out. If you know that hey, I need some assistance with understanding how to craft questions. I need to understand how can I take this off my plate? The research, everything that goes into this. Go ahead and reach out to us here at Adode Media. And that's ADODE media.com. Or you can head over to our website and you can find our digital products. We have free resources as well as how-to videos that kind of walk you through some of these details. I hope you guys found this information helpful. And until next time, have a good one.